Hi, how you doing today? I'm Scott Knox. Welcome to the rebuild shop for Halifax Bomber. This is Knox Tech Inc. It's a new facility we bought a few months ago, and Halifax 57 Rescue has contracted Knox Tech Inc. to carry out some wing rebuild projects for the Halifax 57 project. We've broken this project into 4 phases. The first phase is to remove the front spar, and I'm working with George Roskop, and we're going to be here for the next conceivable next few months. This place has become, for me anyways, the ultimate man cave. It's been a dream of mine to have a shop where I can work and create, and it's very timely. I was talking to Carl Cascard a couple of years ago and mentioned I was going to buy the shop, and he mentioned that it would be phenomenal if we could team up and have the Halifax rebuild project in a nice, dry, safe, secure location for the longer term. Previously, the rebuild work was happening outside in a tent in the cold and weather, and that just obviously wasn't acceptable. So this is a great team approach to solving the problems, and what a great thing to have this wing in this shop. Again, it was a real dream of mine to be able to work on a project like this. I've known Carl and Jim for about 20 years, I guess, give or take. We've worked together from time to time over the years. But this is, I think, the real first really decent opportunity that I've been able to truly help out with the projects, these worthy projects that Halifax 57 has been working on. I feel that I can bring something of real value to the project by allowing them to use my shop. So George, here we are.
We are.
Maybe you can go over some of the more recent things we've been doing on the wing, and what are we focusing on now that the wings are here in this shop?
Okay, we're deskinning right now. As you can see, this section of all the skin has been taken off. Presently, I'm working on this so that I can extract the front spar so that we can manufacture a new front spar section. A lot of these parts are going to be reused, so we have to be careful taking it apart, and basically that's it right now.
So once we get these spars separated from the box sections, what do we need to replace? What's not good on these?
Well, first of all, they've been cut, the spar caps, top and bottom. This would have been one piece, but now it's in 3 pieces, so we have to rebuild the whole thing. As you can see right here, it's been torched, it's been cut, all kinds of things. Right. Now, as in the previous videos, we now have the spar caps here, so that our next procedure is to build a tooling jig to set up the spar caps, which are these guys here, and we're going to replace that along with the webbing that goes in between. A lot of it is still usable, but as you can see, like I said, it has been torched, so this section going into the next section, that's not usable. You can't repair it.
So for this first phase of the project, how many rivets, how many fasteners are we/you going to have to remove?
I can't give you a count. It'd probably take me a day to count them all for you.
Hundreds. We're talking hundreds, possibly thousands.
Yes.
Right.
And the big deal is, as you saw in the previous episodes, removing bolts, removing screws, rivets by the thousands. As you can see, as Jim is coming up, here's a lot of the things that we have to do. There's still oil tanks, fuel tanks, pumps, all kinds of systems in this wing that have to be removed so that we can get at the bolts and the rivets and everything inside the spar caps, so front and rear.
What would have been in this location on the Halifax Bomber versus the Hastings? Is this material going to be reused?
The ribs are going to be reused. The Hastings, obviously, as you can see, it had an oil tank. This is the green tank up here. This is for one engine. That's a fuel tank. This whole section in here is a fuel tank. And that's why we have to, well, you can actually see it here. The whole wing section is a fuel tank. But not like the Halifax where it had bladders, this actually has rigid tanks.
But
Now-
these would have been the inner bomb bays,
That's right, that's correct. This would have been one here and another one here. Same thing on the opposite wing.
Right.
This was just a, basically a closed cell on the Halifax, right next door to the landing gear bay.
So there would have been another section?
Yes,
another piece,
that would have been the interior, the center of the fuselage.
And the connection point would have been out about here somewhere.
Yeah, maybe a little further out, but probably 6 feet or so.
Oh, still, so even maybe 2 bays,
There was 2 bomb bays.
2 more bays beyond that point.
Yes. Also with the Halifax, this section out here, the outboard rib, and I don't have it with me, it had nitrogen tanks in it. And the purpose of that was in case fuel tank got hit, they could transfer the fuel load, and it had a compound in it that when mixed with the fuel, it would seal itself. And if that was not possible, then they would blow these nitrogen tanks, and it would push the fuel out of the tank, and so there's no oxygen, the fire presumably would go out. But
So-
those are the 3 things that were in this section.
Maybe you can tell us the general arrangement, where the landing gear would have been and where the engine mounts would have been.
Well, the landing gear, as you can see, is right here. This is a Hastings drag brace for the landing gear. This is actually the back of the wing.
And this is the underside.
Correct.
Right.
And what would happen is, these 2 castings are the pickup for the undercarriage, because the undercarriage comes up here and it rotates back inside behind this drag brace.
So the wheel would have folded back into
Correct.
that cavity there.
Correct. Now, these on the same casting, these holes here are for the engine mounts.
Right.
Same thing at the top here. This is actually the top here.
Right.
This is actually one of the pickup points for the engine mount.
So we'd have the leading edge here,
Yes.
trailing edge at the back with the flap actuators
Yes.
and the other components. Well, thanks for joining us for this edition of the Rebuild Shop. I'm Scott Knox with George Roscoff, and hope to see you next time on the Rebuild Shop. Thanks.